Hello everyone. My name is Daniel. I'm 62 years old, and for most of my life my family believed one simple thing about me, that I was a failure, not the dramatic kind. Not the kind who loses everything overnight, just the quiet kind. The man who never seemed to succeed the way everyone else expected. For 10 years I worked on something nobody believed in. My brothers laughed at it. My father called it a waste of time. Even my wife once asked if I should finally get a real job. And honestly, sometimes I almost believed them, but then one evening, during a family dinner, I said a sentence that changed the room forever. I looked at them and said, "Google just bought my company." And the silence that followed was something I will never forget, but to understand that moment, you need to know what happened during those 10 years. 10 years ago I made the worst decision my family had ever seen, at least, that's how they described it. I quit my job. At the time I was 52 years old, stable salary, decent position, predictable life. Most people my age were planning retirement. I was starting over. My father didn't even try to hide his disappointment. "You're too old for dreams," he told me. My older brother Mark laughed. "So what's the plan?" he asked. "You're going to build the next Facebook." I tried to explain the idea. It was a small piece of software that could organize massive amounts of scattered data in a way that was much faster than existing systems. Nothing glamorous, just tools for companies, but I believed in it, and belief was apparently the only thing I had, because the first 2 years were brutal. Savings disappeared quickly, my wife had to cover most of our expenses, family gatherings became uncomfortable, every holiday dinner included the same questions. "So Daniel, how's the little project going?" They never called it a company, always a project, like a hobby. By year 3 my father stopped asking. By year 4 my brother started making jokes. "Maybe he's secretly rich and just hiding it," Mark would say. Everyone laughed, except me. The truth was far less funny. There were nights I sat alone in my tiny office wondering if they were right. Maybe I had made a mistake, maybe I was chasing something that would never work, but every time I considered quitting, something stopped me. Because the software worked, it wasn't famous, it wasn't viral, but the few companies using it loved it. They renewed contracts, they told other companies, slowly, quietly. Things started growing. By year 6 we had our first real breakthrough. A mid-sized tech company adopted the system across their entire network. Suddenly other companies noticed. Revenue doubled, then doubled again, but my family didn't see that. To them I was still the man who quit his job, the failure who refused to give up. By year 9 something strange started happening. Large companies began contacting us, not for the software, for the technology behind it, and one name appeared more than once, Google. At first it was small conversations, technical questions, requests for demonstrations. Then one day an email arrived that changed everything. They wanted to talk about an acquisition. I stared at that email for 5 minutes before answering. Negotiations took months, lawyers, meetings, video calls, more paperwork than I had ever seen in my life. And finally one afternoon the deal was signed. Google bought the company. When the number appeared on the final contract I had to read it twice, then 3 times, because it didn't feel real. After 10 years of hearing the word failure, suddenly everything looked different, but the most interesting moment came a week later. Our family was having dinner at my father's house, same table, same people, same routine. Mark was telling a story about one of his investments, my father was discussing retirement plans, and eventually the conversation turned to me, as usual. "So Daniel," my brother said with a grin, "are you still working on that project?" Everyone chuckled. I took a sip of water, then I answered calmly, "No." That caught their attention. My father looked up. "Oh. You finally stopped?" I shook my head, "Not exactly." The table went quiet. Then I said the sentence I had been waiting 10 years to say, "Google just bought my company." For a moment nobody spoke, not a single word. My brother blinked. "What?" "They acquired the platform last week." My father leaned forward. "You're serious?" I nodded. The room became silent in a way I had never experienced before. No jokes, no laughter, no questions about my little project. Just silence, and for the first time in 10 years, they were looking at me differently, not as the failure, not as the dreamer, but as the man who didn't quit, and sometimes, that's all success really is.